course, that's an easy one. All right, so I have, in the church in Dwight, one of the ways the company grew from $1 billion to $3.5 billion was through acquisitions. So we did a lot of acquisitions, a very inquisitive company. So we would buy brands, typically, not necessarily buy assets from a company. But even when we would buy a complete company and the assets, one way companies pay for acquisitions is through synergies. And synergies mean you're going to have bigger, you're going to be able to purchase with more strength. So instead of buying 100 tons of X, you're going to buy 200 tons of X. So when you go and meet with the supplier, you're going to have more leverage. And maybe you're going to be able to leverage some other advertising budget and those things. But the real savings, unfortunately, is people. You don't need 2 plants to produce it, or you don't need 2 purchasing departments or 2 finance departments, and often 2 HR departments. It depends on the kind of asset you buy. So what the HR department did is we would model these businesses. We would create how we would run it if we owned it with a blank sheet of paper, and then we'd say we have this many Church and Dwight employees, and we have this many. For instance, we bought OxyClean. OxyClean, Billy Mays, the crazy guy. We bought that business. It was located in Denver, Colorado. So they had 155 people. By the way, none of them wanted to live in New Jersey. They lived in Colorado. They kept reminding me of that a lot of the time. But so anyway, we would have to synergize, provide those models. We're not choosing the people, telling the department what talent we would have to help them understand that we weren't just going to have all of those individuals weren't needed to make the entity successful. So the delivery of the message to the people affected often fell to the HR department. And what we did, and I certainly did with my team, is we had honest discussions with individuals. We laid out the path. We were very direct. We treated everyone like adults. Didn't hide information from them. We shared when there was uncertainty. We were very honest with what could possibly be of the timing, and be honest and say if the timing doesn't work out, we're going to change it. So we would do all these things, and I think John would attest to we did it with lots of, we treated people very fairly and respectfully, and that translated into very successful integrations. Now, my boss, the commercial guy, the guy that talks in bits and bytes, often has difficulty delivering bad news. So marketers are always about the upside of everything, but they don't like to necessarily deal with the downside. So in his mind, he thought I was literally going out there and saying to people, you're fired, and you're fired, and of course I wasn't doing that, but in his mind, that's what it was. So he thought that would be a catchy phrase for a presentation. And it was actually on like the presentation with me with a hatchet in my hand. So I actually, when I heard about it, I was traveling for the company, and my phone was ringing in there, and I said, oh, what did he do? So then I see him like 2 days later, and I went to his office. I said, what's with the assassin thing? I said, I'm the HR person. I'm the people person, not the assassin. But it was already out of the box. All right, so then somebody in my office thought to counter that, they made me my employee badge, and instead of my name, they called me Mother Teresa. So I wore a badge for 8 years or 7 years, whatever it is, let's say 5 years. 5 years, all my employee badge never had a name. It just had Mother Teresa. By the way, that's the difference in working for a consumer products company and working for a steel and wine. They have a great sense of humor, and they're funny people. There's just a lot of drama, that's all.
Another question. Yes.
What are some of the challenges that you face with the consumer?
Well, for us, first of all, one of the biggest changes in the consumer industry, or differences I noticed, is more women. There's more women in the business. Like 55% of our employees are female. it just looks at the world so differently. I mean, it like looks at this thing and it you know, finds creative ways to describe a big or paper-made pen. So there's people that are just constantly throwing ideas at me, and those ideas aren't limited to marketing. They're limited to, they like to tell me in HR what to do. So I had a lot of help in running the department from people that knew absolutely nothing, obviously, or at least about that. So I found that they were just high touch points, high communications, you know, social media, everything that could possibly be in play. They wanted to be part of that. Every time somebody had an employee benefit, you know, they thought, of course, they should get all of these things, you know, and they just have, they soaked up information and then they spit it back at you. And by comparison to an industry that's much more disciplined, like the steel industry or the coal industry, which just has a lot of engineers and different kinds of workers and really solve problems that are kind of life and death type problems, you know. The funniest thing for me was I really got tired of listening to consumer products people because they whine so much. I don't like my office, I don't think the sun is too bright. You know, you go into the sun, you go to the steel industry, and it's like, it's important when somebody has a problem, or the mining industry. Like, when they brought an issue forward, it could be a life and death issue. And so I felt like, you know, again, it's all relative to that, so that was a big difference for me. But it's just the pace of a consumer product. We're all consumers, you know. Well, you buy something today and you go, I'd never buy that again because I think it needs to be smelled like mangoes. Okay, then everybody's got to rush to do the mango thing. It's just constantly. Yeah. By the way, I do want to comment. When I did go underground in 1975, which is the first time I did go underground, there were workers who refused to go underground because I was there. Yeah. So because of the decade-long or century-long belief that a woman underground would bring bad luck to the mine. And so people would, and we had to accommodate that for a while, and then eventually we had to stop. During the year, so I was the first female to go underground in many, many mines. But then we actually hired the first UMWA member, a working member. I was just doing time studies. And that caused a lot more of a problem for the guys, because she was actually dragging lines and cable and operating equipment, and that really was taboo for a very, very long time. So it was an interesting time. I worked for a Marine. I think having an ex-Marine, which they say there's no such thing as an ex-Marine, you're always a Marine. I think that really helped me because he would just refuse to let, like, if I said, I can't do that, he would say, yes, you can. I can't do that. His name is Alex. I can't do that, Alex. You know, like that guy with the baseball bat. I drove up to go to the mine. The guy was with the baseball bat. He says, what are you doing there, little darling, or something like that to me. I'm going to work. He says, no, you're not. You turn around. So I turned around and I drove back down the holler, and the holler is like 20 miles. And I got to a phone. We didn't have cell phones then. I called my boss and said, Alex, this guy threatened me with a baseball bat. You turn around and you go back up there. I turn around my little Volkswagen Bug, and I go back up the holler. And so he kind of, was that hand on my back, just keep pushing me. Ended up doing, was a great thing. So.
There's a little courage involved here. Hopefully with a baseball bat, but probably most of it's not in a coal mine. But think about being 500 feet underground in an environment that's entirely black, with hundreds of men, and you're the only woman, and they don't want you there. It's a pretty scary scenario. If you're bad luck, you don't need bad luck in coal mines. They want you out, and they have some pretty creative ways of getting you to leave. A little courage involved.
By the way, there might have been a couple hundred guys underground, one woman, and about 1,000 rats.
Rats are your friends.
Yeah, rats are your friends.
Because when they start taking off,
right. If you see a rat, that basically means it's okay. It's oxygen.
Other questions? Yes.
Your work takeaway was to when the numbers can be comfortable.
Yeah.
During your tenure at Jersey Light, what department or department's numbers were most important to you?
Well, the finance department's numbers, because that's the whole trail, right, of everything. And really operations, because we were a manufacturing company, so 2/3 of our employees, 60% of our employees were associated with manufacturing. So productivity rates and wanting to know what the cost of conversion was for a product. We looked at building a plant versus using co-packers, which is big in our industry, which means a lot of our products are made by other companies. So understanding is it more cost efficient to have the plant inside the company with the employees and the benefits and everything that comes with that, or paying a contracted rate to have that supplied by somebody else. So the supply chain and HR, we were sort of joined at the hip. And the sales and marketing people we kind of ran from, but we certainly had to deal with them. And then the CFO's office and our office, we were, like that. And they say, and many of you are practicing HR people, if you're in a company and your best friend is the CFO of the company, that's a pretty good thing. Because that pretty much means that you're respected and they trust the decisions that you make. So, yeah, but I'd say probably all the supply chain stuff was pretty important methods.
Who's the instructor of your class that you're here for? Dr. Hogan? Name the fourth.
Thanks for remembering number 4, by the way.
Other questions?
So my question is sort of 2 parts. One is, given your background, growing up in a household and careers, one question is how your perspective on unions changed over the years. And related to that, in a way, sort of moving from sort of a heavy industry manufacturing environment to a consumer product environment, and sort of our larger economy is more service-oriented consumer product. What's your perspective on sort of the future of unions and the labor unions in general? Do you see a future?
Yeah, I'm not I can't say that I've studied it, but I think anyone that's practiced in this business for as long as I have, some of the folks here, so much of what unions brought to the table is legislated. There's social issues, there are legislated issues. I mean, frankly, and I say this with all due respect to anyone that's from California, but California is a union. The employees of California. Correct? Pardon?
Republic of California.
Correct. But yeah. So what I find is that the union, I think where unions, at least that I am aware of, where they've struggled connecting with the workers of today and the issues of today, is what are they bringing them that's not already legislated or possible through other means? Because that's where I think the biggest challenge is for unions. And in my company, we've had union drives, and we have unions, and we bought businesses that were unionized and others that weren't unionized. And I'm always surprised by the fear in management, certain leaders. Everybody gets all tied up in a knot about worrying about working with the union. It sort of it's natural to me, it's second nature to me, and I kind of appreciate the relationships. But I do wonder where that's, how are they going to build their membership up in other than the public sector? Because I don't know what the propositions that they're making to the workers in terms of the issues that workers face now are the same. So there are a lot more enlightened employers. Now, I say that for where I came from. I don't think I could work for somebody or a company that wasn't so fair-minded. I carried that in my toolkit. I insisted that those things be front and center when we talked about issues. And so even though I have a silly name attached to me, it's kind of meaningless because really that's not how it works. That's not how it works. But I think it's a big challenge.
You had mentioned that you come from a blue-collar family, and that your one talking point was also about being able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate with higher end, and you need to be able to go online and be able to talk to the workers.
Right.
Do you think that you're being from a blue collar family is part of your luck and being able to communicate with the people on the worker? Like the fact that you
I do.
or is that something that you can learn?
Oh, I think it can be learned, but I think I had a little bit of an edge there. You know, I went to Union some picnics on Labor Day, and I kind of knew issues that people faced, and so workers faced, and particularly in dangerous industries. So for me, it wasn't that difficult. But I saw so many people struggle with it, like literally not be able to look at anyone in the eye. When we would do, this is a really good example, when we would do acquisitions, we would send a team down to the plant. Now, often acquisitions are, secret and confidential. So they would think that we would be like from an insurance agency or something. They would, employees wouldn't know because you can't make something public, particularly if it was a public company, unless, it's everybody, all the stakeholders know about it. So I would say to my team, walk around the plant and look at people in the eye and say hello and how you doing, and really look at them and talk to people and look at what kind of cars are they driving, what kind of sense of do they make enough money to have good uniforms and a clean environment. And it just was, I was so struck by how uncomfortable certain people are with that environment. So I guess I was lucky because it became second nature to me. But I do think you can learn it, and I sort of, give some hints on how to engage, how to have a conversation, how to open a conversation with somebody that they just didn't think they had anything in common with. And that's sort of sad to think that way, but it was intimidating. Some people prefer to be in that boardroom setting, with a bunch of people that are kind of haven't been in touch with reality for decades. But I don't know. I mean, that to me was I had to learn that one a little bit. So.
Working in the coal industry, I would think that being a coal miner's daughter was a real asset.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it gave you a
It gave me some credit. Street.
From your speech, you mentioned that you were selling in China and Brazil. And actually, I just come from a class, and I'm just wondering, from your experience, what's the biggest challenge of doing this in another country?
Well, language was, right off the bat it was. I found in China just because they didn't know who Church and Dwight was and what the company was, so I found it to be a much more brand awareness by potential employees. So we would do a lot of selling about what the company was and what Arm & Hammer, by the way, does not translate that logo. It's that logo. That logo. Yeah. It doesn't translate outside the U.S. It looks like a communist symbol, right? So, and because they're so knockoff products, we'd see our products and it would have like a hatchet in it rather than a hammer or whatever. It just was a funny thing. So it was really learning how to promote the company to employees, and that was the most difficult other than language. In Brazil, we had mines in Brazil, and we were in Bahia, which is the part north of Rio de Janeiro, so it was kind of more of a, already an industrial environment. But it was, working with the labor unions there was very difficult. They are a little bit scary, no offense, but as an organization, they were a little scarier than I kind of was used to. And I'm pretty tough, but I thought it was, but not as tough there. And the economy there is just so up and down. It kind of is just hard to fix how to attack certain issues like establishing wage rates and things like that. It was interesting in Brazil. They have a mandatory wage increase every September, which can be like 10%, 20, here's a 9, 10, 15% across the board increase. And then they expect other merit increases and other budgets, particularly if they're owned by a U.S. company. So it was trying to put some boundaries around expectations. But the Guangzhou days were really really, really interesting for me. You know, you go over there to set up an office where you have no office, so we were using a hotel room as our office for the longest time. You know, just so funny, like to get people to come for an interview and kind of like don't have anything to show them, like this is where you're going to work. So we would like make up drawings of what we thought the office might look like. And I learned that actually had to be a little bit more of a salesperson than an HR person. So, but the business is still there, and it's actually an R&D, marketing and sales office for us. So it's still very successful. There's not that.
Yes.
Can you give us some examples of ways you were discriminated against as a woman? Is there any other advice you have for women that in your
Yeah, so, you know, I probably was discriminated against, probably all the time. But I never felt it encumbered me. That could mean, again, some luck came into play, but I felt like I always stood my ground. I'm a pretty direct speaker generally, you know, when I have something to say. I try not to make anything personal. I always say it's business, so try and keep conversations about the business. I guess from advice, I'm not so sure I'm the best person, because I think my experiences have generally been positive. But when you see it, you know, if it's wrong, speak up and say it. And I did do that, and I think I didn't do it in a dramatic way. I didn't do it every time somebody looked at me the wrong way or commented about my body. You know, I sort of would look at who said it and say, are they going to really affect my career or me? And if I didn't think they would, I didn't pay any attention to it. I didn't give them any more credibility. But I know that that's kind of just a personal way of dealing with it. But I don't know. I feel lucky that I kind of made it through all that and not really felt discriminated against. But I'm sure I was.
I'm curious, what are some pieces of advice that you would have for an HR professional who is working in where there's decisions?
What advice?
Yeah.
It's all, I mean, they bring it, you know, first of all, the biggest piece of advice is you have to be involved in the project on day one and not brought in after the decision's made to purchase or to sell something. So I insisted that from the moment we would have management meetings, I said, well, HR has to be at the management meeting, see who's selling this business. One, we can talk to people, and we have the best ability, I think, to make some assessments about the talent, about the honesty of the individuals. I mean, certain people just give me the creeps. And I think after 40 years, I get to feel creepy. When I feel creepy, it's real. I would tell people that. I said, you know, I interviewed hundreds of people every year for jobs. Eventually, you just get you do develop a sixth sense about something. And so I felt like acquisitions were so important to the company. If HR wasn't there, day one, talking about the deal, having management meetings, meeting with the bankers, going on every plant tour, everything. But then it was all about them. It was all about them. So getting good at reading benefit plans and pension plans and funding plans. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in here and ask a question. We have a lot of students here who aren't going into the HR field. They're in our courses, but they may be engineers or nurses or teachers. But they're all going to be looking for jobs, probably all going to have interviews. You're a professional interviewer, a hirer. What advice would you give folks in terms of making a good impression in that first interview?
Well, you know, it's kind of the very basic, simple things is, I find. A great handshake is so important. I cannot tell you how simple that seems, but how important it is. If somebody doesn't extend a hand and look you in the eye, it is crazy to me how people avoid that or don't do a good handshake. So do a good handshake. And if you're sick, say you're sick. You're in the bum or whatever you got to do. But be honest with that. Energy. leaning forward in an interview versus sitting back is so telling. These are they're kind of body type things. But if you're getting called in for an interview, you can bet there's 30, 40, 50 resumes. They've been hung down to 5. Now, you're already made it into that cut. So what's that one thing that's going to distinguish you? And a lot of it's going to be just energy. How you come across, the interest you show. Did you do a little bit of homework? Do you know something about who you're interviewing with? You can Google everything and anybody right now. But those can make these little impressions that you took that time to do it. But I think it's leaning forward, and I mean physically, like showing it. It's not like falling over the place, but like just being engaged in the conversation. I think it goes a really long way to make an impression.
One or two more questions, and I think you were.
Kind of on that note, as far as you being promoted after being a year with the company, was that kind of like earth-shattering, or did everyone kind of expect it after the interview?
No, that was, and I didn't. And I actually, someone reminded me that I said this. I said, I came to church in Dwight to get the steel dust off my face, because I really love that manufacturing. I like those environments, and I really thrive in that environment. So I thought this was just going to be a temporary thing, but it was one of those, and I'm a really good, I execute plans really well. I think I know that about myself. I'm not a good, I don't set like a vision, or I'm like one of these people that, someone says, what's the HR strategy? My joke is, John may have heard this, because he's been our partner for a while. So the HR strategy at Church and Dwight, okay? We're going to grow revenue 3 to 4%. We're going to improve gross margin 50 basis points year over year. We're going to hit our EPS targets, and we're going to have free cash flow of $450 million. That's the business. And if HR isn't doing something that supports those 4 goals, then we're not going to be around very long. And we better not be doing anything that doesn't allow those goals to be achieved. So I'm not a big vision-y person. I never was. So when that job offer came, I really wondered about it, but I did realize that if I got fired, I'd probably get a good exit package. So I took the job. And, it's a funny thing. I worked for the same person for 10 years. And he's retiring at the end of this year. It's public information. And he actually told me he's retiring because I was leaving. Which by the way, I doubt, by the way. But nice compliment. It's the backhander. This is the same person who called me the assassin, by the way. So, kind of way to say, I think we were a good partnership with the team. So that was, I call it a high compliment.
One last question. Yes, in the back.
Looking back on your career, you say there was one consistent thing that felt the most rewarding working in HR?
Well, I have worked with lots of teams, and I think I have really spent time helping people develop their own way in the HR profession with people that have worked for me, with me. And I think the most rewarding right now is to see so many of them either heading an HR department or heading a function or really doing well in their careers. So it's been rewarding that I was able to pass along some experiences and give people some really rich opportunities. This job is not, you don't do this by yourself. You have to have really good people around you. And I think it's been rewarding for me that, one, I was lucky enough to surround myself with good people and that we stayed together as teams and worked together really, really well. And it is the one thing they say in retirement that you miss. So, I jokingly said to somebody today, I miss the people, some of the people. I don't miss all the people, but I miss some of the people. But it's not the stress of a job. It's kind of after 40 years, you've pretty much seen it all. But I think it's kind of not, I don't want to call it legacy, because that sounds a little egotistical, but kind of knowing that there are people that whose lives are touched in the profession who are really thriving and doing well. And I still like talking to them, no matter what company they're with right now. So that's been really rewarding. Okay?
Yeah, found time over the last 20 years to be one of the longest serving members of our alumni board. And that's certainly Penn State ways if we get back to the people that thank you again for many years of service. And to tell her that we will be giving her a name tag, a trophy, to Brova.